Ecumenical Truthmaking, a preface of a theory of truthmaking, to appear in the Asian Journal of Philosophy by Jamin Asay of the University of Hong Kong. I apologize how I say your name. I don't know how to say anything except for very boring English. So, yeah. Let's see what we got going on here. And like I said, as always, comments are welcome. Please let me know what you think, and it's my first time reading it too. You too can be a truthmaker theorist. Boom! You could be a truthmaker theorist. Perhaps you already are. That ecumenical spirit is the driving force behind much of the argumentation in a theory of truthmaking. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Truthmaker Theory is a contemporary view on what it is to, what it is for truth, to, have a theory of truth. You're saying, look, truth isn't guaranteed by, like, an entire world. It's like, you have to say, the entire world, and then what makes the sky being blue, it's, this whole world, in this world, the sky is blue. Truthmaking means there's a truth maker, means there's something, a situation, some sort of state of affairs in this world that makes it true. So you don't need the entire universe, like the entire real world. You just need, like, the sky to be blue for the state of affairs of the sky being blue to make it so that it makes the truth that the sky is blue. So you've got, like, some sort of smaller theory. This goes back to, I think, Kit Fine is big on this. I forget if he invented it or he's just leading person in it. Okay, so there's a book on a theory of truthmaking. In its pages, and it's by this person, Asay, in its pages, I defend a conception of truthmaker theory that is not only antecedently committed to a variety of substantive metaphysical commitments that might be too robust for philosophers with exacting metaphysical scruples. On my view, nominalists can be truthmaker theorists, so many anti-realists of various stripes. Deflationists about truth can and should join the truth-making camp, for their true about truth applies perfectly well to the truth in truth-making. Alright, I don't know if I'm a truth maker, I forget, but they're saying, hey, I might be one too, because if I recall, I rejected truthmaker theory for various reasons, but, this person is saying, look, hey, you might actually be one, or, it's wide enough that more people should be in the camp. Okay. By developing an ecumenical approach to truth-making, and thereby lowering its bar to entry, I risk satisfying no one at all. Those who are happy to embrace the more substantial theoretical commitments about which I hesitate might find no advantage to my strategy. Those who are already skeptical of truth-making may find nothing to gain by taking it seriously. But it is to the latter group that I am primarily evangelizing. Truthmaking need not be the sole province of a special corner of metaphysics. It is rather a useful means for regimenting and pursuing ontological investigation. Okay, well, if you're going to be just breaking the world into smaller bits, there ain't nothing that's special about that. Okay, we're not going to look at, the whole actual world. We're going to look at, just a little situation or a subsection. That ain't that new. Because basically, this goes back actually to, modal metaphysics, where you're saying basically what guarantees truth? Well, it's truth in a world. And then people were immediately criticizing that, saying, look, a situation is what we can handle. Who knows what the real world is, but you might understand the situation right here. Right now, I'm talking to you, I'm not talking to anyone, I'm just talking out loud, and it's getting sent out via the internet to lots of people out there. Well, not lots of people, some people. On twitch.tv/Noger0. Yeah. I understand that. And, that is what's going on now, that you might call that the truth of the truth about my current situation is what I'm doing. I'm broadcasting on Twitch. Do I know, does that depend on the entire rest of the world? Nah. So, but that is nothing new. People knew that, that you don't need the entire universe to talk about a situation. Okay, so that's the thing. This whole bit up here, this whole thing, it's yeah, if you want to do that, but then why are you calling it truth-making? It's then you're just, there's nothing, truth-making isn't adding anything to the theory here. Okay, accordingly, I opened the book by identifying truth-making out in the wild, where it might not be expected to appear. Consider Getier's argument that justified true belief is insufficient for knowledge. Oh God. Why will people not let Gettier die? Gettier has to die. Justified true belief needs to be taken out in the back and shot. I'm sorry. Goodbye, justified true belief. You should be long forgotten. Okay, in one of Gettier's scenarios, the justified true believer bases his belief on a state of affairs. So this is what I was talking about before. State of affairs. This is what's fundamental, not the entire universe, but what we can handle is a smaller state of affairs. Like wherever you are right now, you understand your state of affairs. You may not understand everything going on outside of your little world, like your little bubble that you understand, but that's fine. That's what we got. We understand a bit. So a justified true believer bases his belief on a state of affairs that is not the one in virtue of which the belief is true, and thus fails to know it. Hence, Gettier invokes an epistemic principle to the effect that knowledge requires a knower to base their beliefs on whatever in fact makes the belief true. Yeah. So this is where the truth maker is what makes a belief true. That's what truth maker stuff says. But again, 1963 state of affairs, this was already an idea that was known, that it's a state of affairs, not something else. And Truthmaker Theory came in later. So like now the author here is reading back Truthmaker Theory into previous stuff. It's like, no, this is the prehistory of Truthmaker Theory, not that Gettier was a truth maker. I mean, that just, that just seems like you got the cart before the horse there. Okay. Or consider epistemicism about vagueness, which maintains that there is some X such that possessing exactly X dollars and not a penny more or less is minimally sufficient for being rich. Yeah. Again, another theory that just needs to, it's very funny. I don't know if anyone cares about what epistemicism is. It says, look, it's not that it says there are no vague concepts. So it's whatever it is to be rich, but we may not know it, but there is an exact amount. So possessing exactly X dollars and not a penny more or less is minimally sufficient for being rich is true. So that means it's not like no one actually knows that there is a exact point of where it is to be rich. And if you have anything more or less, you can tell. Hey, Mr. Party Hardy. What's going on? How are you? I'm doing a rare morning stream. I hope you're awake. How are you? We're reading this something on Oppresses. So this is just about a book on truth making, which is the theory of how truth is made, how you know something's true. Okay, so let me know if you have questions about anything really. I don't care. Alright, so, yeah, epistemicism. This position is frequently met with incredulity, and I believe that it has a metaphysical root. What could possibly make such a sentence true? Oh, you started training for a 10K? Yeah. Yeah, running is no joke. So, yeah, relax. Get yourself something comfy to wear. Yeah. Yeah, what could possibly make such a sentence true? Its truth needs to depend on something, but what would uniquely determine that value? Hence, what is driving this resistance to epistemicism is one's ontological scruples. Such a sentence can't be true because there doesn't exist anything to make it true. You shall live out of your bed today? Hey, that's, sure. I never liked running myself. My brother is the runner in the family. My mom also used to run when she was younger. But my brother, he ran a marathon. So it's like, yeah, he did it. He was like, it's unpleasant. Running for that long, but yeah, it's something. It's something to be able to run like that. And I've heard basically that this is one of the skills that is what it is to be human, is basically to be able to outrun other animals, not in terms of speed but in terms of longevity. We can just run things down and keep going, and other animals will just tire out before we do. So if we can keep our eye on it, which we have good sight and tracking ability, and then we can just run stuff down, and that's how what makes us successful. So it is something for us to be able to run. Okay, these examples illustrate the idea that truth depends on being. What the fuck does like being mean here? Sentences about the pocket contents of a future employee are made true by the contents of that future pocket employee's pocket, not someone else's. Okay, this is the Gettier example. If there is a fact about the matter about exactly where the line between rich and poor is, it must be due to something in reality. Okay, so they're just saying, yeah, there's a fact of the matter out in the universe. Discussions of truth-making frequently begin by heralding the slogan that truth depends on reality, it doesn't hang on air, as Armstrong puts it. I, too, trumpet the slogan that truth depends on reality. It's the first sentence of the book. But my main purpose in the monograph is not to defend the slogan, but to put it to work. I argue that we can use truth-making to develop better accounts of philosophically important phenomena like truth, analyticity, and realism. I then argue that we can use truth-making to probe a variety of ongoing metaphysical debates. Again, the idea that truth depends on reality, this is nothing new. This is not like empiricism. Like, it's not that you can just make stuff up and that's the way the world is. It's that you have to go out and actually investigate. This is, again, like empirical. Like, if you want to know what it is to go running, like Mr. Party Hardy's gonna find out, you actually have to go do it, and then you will understand more about what it is to go running. But like, it's not like yes, you can sometimes think of stuff and learn something about the world, sure, but that's limited. Many times you actually have to go experience the thing. You have to go find out how reality actually is, or else you're basically doing it'll hang on air. You'll just be making stuff up. So like, again, these are not new ideas here. Why is this relate to truth making? We'll find out, I guess. Before I apply my truth-making framework, however, I develop it by defending what I believe to be the best answers to several fundamental questions about truth-making. Three are the most important. First, is truth-making fundamentally an exercise in ontology or explanation? Second, what is truth-making? What is the truth-making relation? Finally, do all truths have truth-makers? These questions are intertwined, so to answer them, it's crucial to consider why we should care about truth-making in the first place. Yes, please tell me why I give a shit about truth-making. Because like I said, all this stuff that was mentioned earlier, there's plenty of old theories that mention these things, that like discuss them and endorse them. So these are contemporary ideas that already existed in the literature. I mean, so what is truth-making adding? Yeah. Both of which, it's two separate perspectives. Oh, my strategy, why should we care about truth-making in the first place? Author says, my strategy is to identify two separate perspectives on the goal of truth-making, both of which can be gleaned from the literature. First, what I call ontological accounting takes truth-making to be an exercise in ontology, a means for determining what exists. Those interested in truth-making are wary of theories that rely on certain truths while not giving those truths sufficient ontological attention. I know. Semiotics, welcome in. Phil Roulette in the morning time. I skipped Wednesday because, I skipped Wednesday to go hang out in another stream. A buddy hadn't streamed in 8 months, so I figured I'd go hang out over there for a bit. Yeah, so, I got my coffee right here. So I feel like this is... Valpo, what's up? Yeah, exactly. Saturday morning edition. How you doing, Valpo? And Semiotics, hope you're well. I'm feeling this is what it was like during the pandemic when I was starting out. I was broadcasting in the mornings. I haven't done this in so long. I forgot, like, there were people, like leaf blowing because it's fall now. Like, I had to skip the leaf blowing. You just figured they were more important than us? Oh, this is your detention? Oh, well, no, they're not more important than you, but like maybe once I can push back my roulette. I'm making it up to you today. I'm streaming on a Saturday morning, man. Like I didn't want to like skip the day. It wasn't like I was taking a vacation. I wanted to support another fellow streamer. Speaking of, I should shout out the Waltiverse. The Waltiverse. This is a friend of both mine and Aris, I know. used to be around quite a bit more. You can see what he looks like. Let's see if it works. There is Walters. He's so cute. But yeah, he's basically oh, you're coming after me now, Cinesemiotics. Bring it. But yeah, Walterverse is fun because it's like he's running a late night talk show, like in the old style of, like, late, or not even old style, just like late night talk shows, like the Late Show or whatever, or the Tonight Show. And is like if you were on stream, as if like you see he's wearing a suit, he's got like a sidekick. So I mean, it's like an old Conan O'Brien show, whatever. But like it's a good time. So, but yeah, this is really reminding me of like streaming back in the pandemic when I wasn't at work. I'd get up and I'd stream. When I started streaming, I streamed in the morning and night, so I'd stream twice a day. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing because I hadn't watched Twitch much before, but I was streaming in the morning and at night. 2 papers in the morning, 2 papers at night, and that's why I'm at 300, because I was doing 4 days, 6 days a week. And this is what it feels like. I'd get up, I'd stream, I'd go do stuff for the rest of the day, I'd come back, and then at night I'd do another 2 papers. But yeah. Anywho, so we're reading this preface about truthmaking. Yeah. I'm right here. You don't have to send a warrant. I'm not running away. Okay, I hope everyone out there is well. And yeah, and it's interesting because when I used to stream at different times, I'd get some people from like other parts of the world that I wouldn't get. So I'm just wondering if I'll get like, European peoples or like the East Asian folks, Australians. I wonder what time is it in Australia. Actually, I don't know if I'll get Australia. Oh yeah, it might just be like evening tomorrow in Australia. Truthmaking in Fisa? Yeah. Okay, why do we care about truthmaking? It's funny, truthmaking in Fisa? Yeah. The first, what I call ontological counting, takes truthmaking to be an exercise in ontology, a means for determining what exists. Yeah, so, I mean, if you go look at what's true, then you can say, well, that exists because there's something out in the world that's true. Again, this is just empiricism, though. Those interested in truthmaking are wary of theories that rely on certain truths while not giving those truths sufficient ontological attention. Consider Wright's account of moral truth. Moral judgments are true when they are super-assertable, and they are super-assertable when they possess warrant that would survive any kind of enhancement to our information. So I guess, yeah, if you get as much information as possible, then you can say it exists, but I mean, again, that would include all empirical facts. Crucially, he offers this account as an alternative to moral realism. But notice that Wright has the truth of moral judgments depend on the truth of a particular sort of counterfactual. And what makes those counterfactuals true? These facts are about the sustainability of warrant, don't hang on air. Without an account of the ontology responsible for such counterfactuals, we lack a basis for the proper... sorry, I gotta get the volume down a little bit. It's loud in my head. Without an account of the ontology responsible for such counterfactuals, we lack a basis for properly classifying the account as anti-realist. After all, it could be that the best answer to what makes those counterfactuals true is precisely the ontology offered by the moral realist. Okay, yeah, so again, what is it that is doing the work out in the world? For the ontological accountant, the goal of Truthmaker Theory is to provide a comprehensive ontological... I can't speak. Who knew I couldn't speak in the morning anymore? I'm not a morning person. A comprehensive ontological account of the world, an answer to the question of what there is. They are guided in this endeavor by considering what there needs to be in the world to make true all we take to be true. The second approach to Truthmaker Theory is to be a project of alethic explanation. All right. Truthmaker inquiries answer the question of why truths are true. The explanation first, theorists should agree with the accountant that Truthmaker Theory will furnish the correct ontological inventory, but they go further by claiming that there is a specific explanatory debt incurred by at least some truths that we haven't explained them until we've offered an ontology that explains why they are true. For example, suppose one gives detailed explanations for why Chris Patton was the first governor of Hong Kong by relying on historical accounts of his appointment and the details of Hong Kong political system both before and after its handover to China. Nevertheless, one still hasn't fully addressed the question of why Chris Patton was the final governor of Hong Kong is true until one author offers a truthmaker for it. What's it actually mean right there? I'm not sure what the heck this means. I mean, what is a truth maker for it? I mean, this just seems to beg the question of, like, if you want to know why something's true, you can give this historical account, and then someone says, well, look, but why is it true? You said, well, I gave the historical account. If they're asking for something else, then they have to specify that, but you can't just, the author here can't claim that you need to have a truth maker for it, because I mean, what over and above the historical explanation is the truth maker at that point? The ontology that explains why it's true. Like, yeah, so why is something true? You need an ontology that explains why it's true. So not just the historical account, you need a metaphysical ontology that explains why something's true. I mean, okay, but that's weird, I find. Yeah, Cynicism X. I think that's the question. Like, what exactly does that mean? Maybe they get into that a little bit later in the paper, but this is a very short paper. Maybe they get into that in the book, but again, this seems like the mental designation and empirical observation. They need something like that. They need a distinction right there, because most people would accept the historical account. And to say, well, we need the historical account, and then furthermore just say, and this is what makes it true, like that. What are you adding at that point? Just by saying, and this is what makes it true, is this being the historical account of this stuff. So yeah, what's truth making adding over and above? And that's one of my biggest problems with Truthmaker Theory. It's just reiterating all the old theories about stuff, which I said earlier too. I was like, truth making is basically just saying, well, the situation is what makes it true. Well, that's not like clever. I mean, how you go about talking about situations is very clever in Truthmaker Theory, but like the idea that like it's a situation that makes it true, not the entire universe. Well, yeah. Okay, author says, I adopt the ontological accounting view of truth-making. The explanatory approach is vulnerable to difficult objections, but bears the burden of articulating the specific explanatory project that can only be addressed by truth makers and too closely resembles substantive theories of truth, like correspondence theories. The accounting approach also enables me to offer a straightforward answer to my second question concerning the truth-making relation. The major issue here is whether or not metaphysical necessitation is necessary and sufficient for truth making. An object necessitates the truth of a truth bearer if and only if it's metaphysically necessary that if the object exists, the truth bearer is true. Yeah, see, this is the thing. What is this truth bearer? They're saying, well, the thing is the way it is because it's the bearer of the truth. The fact that guy was the governor of Hong Kong, well, that's what makes it true. It's like, well, you're just reiterating that stuff. It seems like a correspondence theory to me, and they just poo-pooed the correspondence theory up here. But like the thing that the truth bearer seems like it corresponds to what is being true. Okay. The orthodox position today is that the necessitation is necessary but not sufficient for truth-making. I agree and argue for the former claim. I disagree with the latter, arguing that necessitation is both necessary and sufficient for truth-making. We'd have to read the person's book to find out what their argument is, but again, I don't actually see how they're adding anything here. They just say it's different, which is okay. This is a short paper. The most familiar argument against the sufficiency of necessitation involves necessary truths. It's metaphysically necessary that if my copy of Plato's complete works exists, 13 is prime is true. Trivially, every object necessitates every necessary truth. But, goes the objection, each and every existing object does not make every necessary truth true. 13's prime is not true in virtue of my Platonic tome. Therefore, there must be some hyper-intentional component to truth-making, such that it is more discriminating a relation than purely modal necessitation. Yeah, see, here's the thing. It's like, if something's true, then it's the same as all the other things. Keep in mind that, Cynicism says, keep in mind that folks poo-poo is a technical term as I am using it. That is correct. Everything I say is a technical term. It only makes sense in my little world, in a technical sense. Yeah, so this is a point about the metaphysics, but again, like, this is what they're saying. There must be something else there than just repeating the fact that these are all like truths. It's like, okay, yeah, but that doesn't add it. You're not getting anything out of it. If you're just saying, look, the fact that, like, I'm holding a coffee mug is made true by the fact that I'm holding a coffee mug, and that's what the truth making is. Like, I mean, and does that, like, me holding a coffee mug necessitate all the other necessary truths in the world? No, but, like, there needs to be more to the theory. All right, author says, I argue against these purported counterexamples by showing how the project of ontological accounting is in no way disrupted by allowing a more liberal account of truth making. Author's view is that mathematical truths are analytic is relevant here as well. We can still explain these truths straightforwardly. It's true that 13 is prime because it is larger than 1 and has no factors besides 1 and itself. This is not a truth-making explanation, but it remains to be seen what a truth-making explanation is and why it is required. Those concerned with a lethic explanation should defend the principle of sufficient reason. Those concerned with ontology should defend truth-making. Okay, I mean, yeah, why a mathematical truth is the way it is because that's what it is by definition, and that's the alethic one because it's sufficient. That 13 is prime, is greater than 1, and has no other factors besides 1 itself. That explains it, and that is a sufficient reason. Like, that's what this is right here. It's a sufficient reason for why 13 is prime. But then you're going to say, well, why is it true? Well, that's how the world is, and that's the ontology here. They're saying, that's how 13 actually is, not by definition, which, of course, we can make the definitions however we want. Okay. But, like, again, that's not a deep point. Like, this saying this is how we define things, and then this is how the world is, and then it matches up. But again, nothing new there. Finally, there is the question of whether all truths have truth makers, maximalism, or only a proper subset, non-maximalism. If one took truth itself to be explained in terms of truth-making, maximalism is required. Non-maximalism is, however, available to the ontological accountant and independently attractive. The most salient candidate, truth-maker gaps, that is, truths without truth-makers, are negative existentials. It's true that there are no mermaids, but it's not true that there is something whose very existence guarantees no mermaids exist. Thus, I defend the view that the way to properly ontologically account for the truth of negative existentials is to exclude certain entities, that is, like mermaids, from one's ontology, not to include some other type of entity, such as mermaid absence. Not all ontological accounting is ontological addition. Okay, so if you're going to talk about what is in the world, and you're going to say, well, mermaids don't exist, I mean, how is that different from, like, a mermaid absence saying, well, mermaids don't exist, we're excluding them? So you've got a list of things that don't exist, and then you've got things that do exist, or you've got a list of things that do exist, which include a subclass of absences. I mean, this is a fine point, but, like, what's the difference between having two lists and then one list with a sub list of things that are absent? I don't know. But I mean, this is fine. This is just what you do. You explain things in, like, different ways. But, like, you can have certain things don't have, there's nothing that makes it true, so that means it doesn't exist. So it's ontologically missing. That's a gap. Fun fact. Like I said, Kit Fine is one of the major people in truth making. He made fun of the dialectists, the people who say things can be both true and false, by saying that's a glut of truth and falsity. So he was calling it glut because he knew it sounded bad. And, there's a negative connotation with like glutty, like it's like a sin to be gluttonous. And so what I would do now, just being snarky, is I'd find some way to make Truthmaker gluts just so he'd have to eat his own words. Not that I have any problem with Kit Fine. I mean, I don't, like, personally know him. But, like, just make Truthmaker gluts just to annoy him, because it would. Anywho. After considering these basic questions about truth making, what emerges is a spectrum. On one end, there's a theorist like myself who takes truth making to be in the business of a ontological accountability, that is, listing all the things in the world that makes what we say true, favors a purely modal truth-making relation, embraces truth-maker gaps, has a fairly deflationary attitude towards necessary truth, and distances themselves from a substantive account of the property of truth. Glutes equal butt muscles. Yes, and Mr. Partiardi is, who is, I don't know if he's still here, but was here a few minutes ago, was saying he was running, and I assume he's a he, I actually don't know, just from the Mr. in Mr. Partiardi, was training for a 10K, and so we've been discussing glutes earlier in stream too. On the other side is someone who takes truth makers to offer a distinctive form of alethic explanation and pairs that with a hyper-intentional account of truth-making relation, maximalism, or a very non-trivial perspective on necessary truth and a substantive theory of truth, perhaps like classical correspondence account. This is what I was talking about. I do hope that the book's arguments encourage those on the other side of the spectrum to reconsider their views, but remember my ecumenical ambitions. My greater hope is that those who reject truth-making altogether will reappraise it once they see the availability of my end. Yeah, so this person's saying, look, there's a lot of space to just have an accounting view of the world, and that's all we're doing. I was like, yeah, that's fine. If you want to have an account of what is in the world, like you're making a list of all the things that are in the world and all the things that are not, like they're saying mermaids do not exist, but like trees and like coffee mugs do exist. Yeah, like that's okay, but again, this is not new. Semiac says, hence indirectly talking about butts, and that is fine. Let's just embrace the fact. Butts. Yes, I agree. Okay, even those who defend a more committed account of truth-making can follow me to the later portions of the book where I put Truthmaker Theory to work. In the middle section, I defend three main theses. First, though theories of truth and theories of truth-making can and should be separated as distinct philosophical enterprises, adopting truth-making ought to lead you to reject correspondence theories of truth, since Truthmaker Theory pulls the motivational rug out from under them. Second, analytic truths require nothing more than trivial truth makers, and perhaps no truth makers at all, if truth making is in fact hyper-intentional. In fact, this lack of substantive ontological grounding is a way of identifying analyticity itself. Third, much of what goes on in debates about realism, such as moral realism and scientific realism, can be understood in terms of truth-making. The core metaphysical debates between realists and anti-realists are, at bottom, debates about truth-makers. Yeah, I mean, you can say, well, what makes something real is what is it either out in the world or is there something else to it? And so what is making those statements true? Then it's about truth-making. Like, you can cast it in that. I actually kind of agree that if you can argue metaphysics, truth-making is a good way, at least it's a good foil. Even if you don't agree with it, it's a good foil for what you can talk about. Now, again, you have to want to talk about metaphysics at that point, so you have to be a metaphysician and talk about that stuff. And again, like, I don't want to talk about a lot of that stuff, so that's why I don't deal with this. But yeah, but this is the thing. It's a useful theory, and even if I disagree with it a lot of times. Okay. In the third and final section of the book, I turn to core topics in metaphysics, and what emerges is something of a mixed bag. I attempt to offer a truth-making defense of a strong form of nominalism, but ultimately abandon it and align myself with a modest form of either realism or nominalism. I also defend eternalism. Yeah, so this actually says, yeah, things exist eternally. So this is, yeah, once it's a fact for all time. So I take on some more substantive metaphysical views and reject their more austere alternatives, but then I advocate highly deflationary accounts of mathematical and fictional entities. By no means do I believe that my truth-making arguments settle any of these centuries-old metaphysical disputes. I agree with Armstrong that there is no royal road in metaphysics, and truth-making is no exception. What I do think is that approaching these debates from the perspective of Truthmaker Theory has led to progress in the form of a collectively better understanding of what is at stake in these issues. Proper ontological accounting is a cognitive goal we should all strive to achieve, and I offer Truthmaking Theory to everyone as a means of realizing it. Okay, very nice, actually. This is a press that wants to outline stuff. I don't expect a whole lot of people outside of metaphysics and people who are really concerned on theories of truth to give two hoots about this. But again, in the last accounting right here, they understand what they're up to. This author understands what they're doing. Proper ontological accounting is a cognitive goal we should all strive to achieve. That is what they're actually up to, and they understand that. This is their conclusion of their paper, of this little preface, and this is the last thing they want you to see, is that what is in the world is actually what's at stake here. They want you to focus on what actually is in the world, and that is a good thing for your mind. It's a good cognitive goal to actually understand what is in the world, so you don't get, like, tripped up by thinking about things that aren't real. And so that is what Truthmaker Theory offers. That's what, like, you're getting offered here, is that you've got a more streamlined theory of what exists in the world. And that's fine. I don't know how deep Truthmaker Theory is, but it's sort of this modern incarnation of a lot of ideas. And so in the last account, if you are interested in the stuff, this person, I think, has made a nice little preface to advertise their views. So as far as, like, this sort of thing goes, like, they did a good job here. If, like, this is the sort of thing you're advertising, like, you go read this person's book, if this is the sort of thing you want, what is in the world and why should we think this way? Well, Truthmaker Theory is it's a popular option nowadays. I know Mark Jago, who makes a lot of or at least he used to, I don't know if he still does, I haven't looked, but he used to make philosophy videos. And so, like, if you actually want to go see someone will teach you, like, straight up logic, not in a class, making sort of a more popular philosophy stuff, he has, like, Truthmaker Theory. He's written on Truthmaker stuff, so you can actually go look up Mark Jago's YouTube series on Truthmaking and Truthmaker Theory, and he's, like, published in this area. And so, like, there are pop philosophy, I don't know how pop it is, but, like, you can actually go see someone talking about this exact topic on, like, a little series on YouTube. And, like, that's unusual. Like, you might see, like, people publish videos of class, but, like, for a theory of truth making, which is a niche sort of, like, contemporary theory, there's not so much you're going to do, but you can go actually find Mark Jago on YouTube talking about this stuff, which is cool. What was funny was he was one of the first people I did philosophy roulette on. Like, he was, like, I think maybe like one of the first 10 papers I did Mark Jago. And then I did him again, like, a little bit while later. And he was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, so he's a good guy. He knows what he's talking about mostly. Anywho, that's it for this one.